Hello, and welcome to the Endeavour Success Stories panel discussion. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which the University of Melbourne was built, the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. We would like to extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with us today. I'm Professor David Graydon. I hold the Clifford Chair in Neural Engineering in the Department of Biomedical Engineering here at the Melbourne School of Engineering. The students who exhibit in the Endeavour exhibition each year don't stop their hard work when they graduate. And today, we are very lucky to have 4 engineering and IT alumni who have gone on to great things. So I would like to introduce our first panelist for this discussion, Xing-Yu Xiong, who is the COO and co-founder at Navi Technologies. Welcome, Xing. Can you please introduce yourself and tell the audience what you're up to now?
Yeah, hi David, thanks for the introduction. So my name's Xing. I'm a Master of Engineering graduate from 2017. I did my Endeavour exhibition in 2016 as part of the biodesign course. Through biodesign, I teamed up with an excellent team combined with a biomedical engineering student with some MBA students as well and a clinician to develop a new technology to help clinicians place central lines in newborn patients. Over the past 4 years, we've been able to start our own company after biodesign, and we've been able to raise a bit of grant funding through non-dilutive sources as well as venture capital. We've been able to develop a clinical prototype, which we're now testing in the clinical setting, and that we're on our way to commercialize this device that we've been working very hard for ever since biodesign. So it's good to be back at our roots and nice to speak with you all here today.
Great, thanks, Xing. So now I'd like to introduce Dee Miao, who's the co-founder at Carry Medical. So welcome, Dee. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. I'm Dee. I'm the co-founder of Carry Medical. I was in Biodesign Innovation 2019. Carry Medical is a very early stage medtech startup to improve respiratory health through innovative 3D technologies. So we are building a digital mask selection tool for our sleep apnea patients to help them to select the best fitted mask easily. And in the future, we aim to build customized respiratory masks for each patient based on their individual health style and their unique features. Right now, we are in Unimap Velocity Accelerator program and building our prototype. Thanks.
Great to hear. Thanks, Dee. Okay, so now I'd like to introduce Elise Sutherland, who is the founder and CEO at Stelect. Welcome to the panel, Elise. Please introduce yourself and tell the audience what you're up to.
Hi, David, and thanks so much for having me. So yes, I'm the founder and CEO at Stelect, and I was a part of the Endeavour exhibition in 2017. And since Endeavour, well, we had kind of had a proof of principle or concept prototype, which we displayed at Endeavour. We've now turned that into a more functioning prototype. We've done more research as well as raising funds, which has been an exciting journey. And we're working now on an imaging catheter, which will allow clinicians to accurately size stents for patients with coronary blockages.
Great, thanks, Elise. And finally, I'd like to welcome Edward Boyce, who is the CEO of Ventura Medical. So welcome, Edward. Could you introduce yourself?
Of course. Thanks, David. It's an honor to be here and be able to share some of my journey. So by way of introduction, my name is Edward. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ventura Medical. And I graduated from the University of Melbourne in 2018, participating in the Endeavour exhibition that year. And as part of my final year project, I was also very fortunate to be selected to participate in the biodesign innovation cohort. I was able to collaborate with some incredibly talented biomedical engineers and business professionals, and together we discovered an unmet clinical need in the neonatal intensive care unit to improve the delivery of non-invasive respiratory support. Through the biodesign innovation process, we designed a solution which actually immediately generated a lot of excitement and traction within our field. And so, much like the others on the panel today, we decided to take a leap of faith and launch a startup almost 2 years ago. So launching a startup has been a whirlwind experience. We've traveled around the globe to meet with experts. We've participated in the MedTech Actuator, an Asia-Pacific-wide accelerator. We've raised funds, and most importantly, we've grown as both professionals and individuals by being surrounded by some really incredible people. We're on a mission to save and transform lives through medical device development, and hopefully along the way, we're also inspiring the next generation of engineers to sort of change the face of their respective fields as well. So that's a bit about our journey.
Hey, thanks, Ed. Well, it's really good to be speaking with you all on the panel. It was a lot of fun going through with you on your journey through to what sort of culminated in the Endeavour presentations, but then to see you taking that on further is really exciting. So for those of you watching through the interactive event platform, remember you can ask the panel questions by typing them into the chat on the right-hand side of your screen. So you may want to direct your questions to a particular person or perhaps to the panel as a whole. So let me start though by asking, let's start with you, Xing. What are some of your most memorable achievements since completing biodesign innovation and participating in the Endeavour exhibition back in 2016?
Yeah, right. In the past few years, we've had a fair bit of progress in our startup journey, and each achievement and each memory has, I guess, its own special place in our heart. I guess it started in biodesign during our Endeavour exhibition. Our first taste of what a startup might be or what a company might look like was when we presented our demo at Endeavour, and this was back in the times of where we could all meet in person at Wilson Hall, and a 9 News crew was actually filming at the time, and they did a short piece on us and our technology, and we actually got featured on Channel 9 News, which was pretty cool, and our co-founder Wei Su was featured there for an interview. But since then we've had a few memorable achievements as well. I remember when we won our first pitch competition, which was the Sunan Cup in 2017. The feeling of pitching on stage to a large audience about something that we've been working on, which was our project at the moment, and being judged by an esteemed panel of judges was something very, very frightening, but something that was worth remembering as well. And I also remember when we first decided to come on full-time into the company. So right now we've got 3 full-time members, myself, another biomedical engineer, Mubin Yusuf, and an MBA graduate and aerospace engineer, Alex Newton. So 3 of us are full-time. We've been working on our company since then, and one of the big technical milestones that we achieved, which was around 2 years ago from now, was when we had our first patient enrolled in our clinical study. Mubin and I were with our Chief Medical Officer, Christian, in the clinical setting, and we were able to get some pretty good data out of our prototype. And the feeling of being able to get that first data point and having our product work in the clinical setting was a really memorable one. And Mubin and I kind of looked at each other when we got that successful data point, gave each other a fist bump, and it was a very, very happy time for us. And since then, we've been able to achieve a few other memorable milestones. Just in the past year, we've raised around $1.5 million in government grants. So we got a $400,000 accelerating commercialization grant, $100,000 Victorian Medical Research Acceleration Fund grant, and also a $900,000 NHMRC grant. So we've been pretty happy with some of the progress we've achieved since biodesign, and we're always looking for the next big thing and to continue growing our team as well. So a few memorable achievements that we've achieved so far. Yeah.
So you missed out one of the personal achievements from really early on as well.
Yes. Yeah. So when I first, when I was 23 and when I had started going full time in a company, I was nominated for a Forbes 30 under 30 award in the healthcare and science category, and at the time that was a very motivating factor, because just starting my startup career, I think sometimes it's a little tough to know which direction to go to. But I think the external validation of personal awards like this is really helpful, and it's certainly helped with my career as well. So that's something that I'm personally proud of as well.
I'm sure I could ask the same question of everybody else, but would anybody else like to mention a particular memorable moment since Endeavour?
There have been so many. How can you choose one? But I think we all probably agree with Xing. Pitching your idea is always really exciting the first time you do it, and kind of looking back and reflecting about how much you've grown from the first time you pitched until where we're at now is really exciting. I think it's something that we're probably all proud of, that journey.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right, let's turn it around a little bit, and I'll direct the next question to Dee. Have you faced any challenges since completing Endeavour and the Biodesign Innovation course, and how did you overcome these, and what did you learn from them? You're muted, Dee.
Yeah, sure. So I think it's always challenges during the journey. To summarize, I will say, like, as an early stage startup, you always find that you have limitations in resources in so many different aspects and in different stages. Like for us in 2019, biodesign innovation was a little bit different because we don't have MBA students on the team, so we all come from pretty similar background. So for our team, maybe the skills not like other years. Diversity of the team is a little bit different, and as fresh graduate, it just finish university and you don't really have work experience, and as early startup, because you don't have any traction years, so you have like financial limitation as well. So how we can overcome all the challenges is that I think first we need to know that what kind of challenges we are facing at different stages, and how can we break down all the big challenges into small challenges, and to leverage all the resources we got. Take us for example, I think we really make full use of all the resources we got from biodesign innovation community. It's a very supportive and growing family. I always got good advice from the community, like Edward, Liz, and without David and Shane, I think I will not be here today. So us, network and the people in this community help us to keep motivated, and we have so many confused time, and we pivot a lot during the journey, and we didn't know what to do next. But because we are in the community, the people in the community can point us to the right people. So we got a lot of free and valuable advice, make us just make our direction clearly than before. Yeah, and the last thing will be just keep going. Never give up, because it is a hard journey, but you will get there.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Dee. Let me follow up this with a particular challenge that we're facing this year, which has probably made it not easy for startups. And perhaps I'll direct this to you initially, Elise, but what have you learned from the COVID-19 situation that you could share? And do you see any positive or long-term changes happening because of COVID? You know, if we tend to think of the negative, but I mean, how is COVID, what's going to be called COVID normal, going to affect the startup sort of thing?
Yeah, for sure. I think COVID-19 for us has certainly presented challenges. We've had our laboratory facilities closed, and then now they're operational at a reduced workforce capacity. And so that's certainly presented probably unforeseen challenges. If you asked me in January, I would not have even had this on my radar as possibilities. But I think the best thing about being a startup is that you're agile and you can adapt to change very quickly. And I think that's exactly what we've had to do, and be prepared to move and make decisions on the go. I think one thing that we've learned, and for us has become significantly easier, is we have an international team, and being online and having meetings online and having the workforce now understand how those meetings will operate and everyone's on that same page, it's been significantly easier for us to do our work that we were required of, I guess. But it's also easier in terms of a funding point of view in some ways, because investors are more readily easy to access. They don't necessarily expect you to fly to the US to have a discussion anymore. Where, last year, if I was speaking to an investor, I'd need to get on a plane and I'd need to travel and would need to have those conversations, where I think that expectation has changed. And I think that makes it somewhat easier in startups, particularly if they're tight on cash and are bootstrapping at those early stages. Some of those expectations have come down. But I think, it's just adapting. The world's changed and you've got to change with it. And I think that's something that all of us on the panel has dealt with and are doing really well.
Yeah. So, Edward, Ventura has been raising lately, haven't you? How has that been going, and has it been affected much because of the lockdowns?
Yeah, that's correct, David. So we were opening an angel investment round right as COVID hit sort of Victoria, and as Melburnians, that did throw out our plans. But in the end, it probably ended up being a good thing. It delayed our round by approximately a month and a half. And what we were able to do is go back and tighten up our messaging, understand really what our really key value propositions were, because when you are communicating on an online platform like this, you have to be so clear with your communication. And so being able to spend that time to really refine our understanding of what we are doing, and being able to communicate that really effectively has probably put us in a good set and been a benefit for us. But yes, there was a slight delay, and as Elise mentioned, being a startup does give you that flexibility to be agile, and things like this have continued to remind us of the importance of that moving forward.
Okay. Perhaps I'll taking a question from the audience, and I'll direct this to you, Xing, first of all, but then everybody else feel free to pitch in. But Thomas Pimenta says, that the world is changing very rapidly, and the sort of technologies and industries that we see now, we may be completely different in 5 to 10 years. So how do you think a young engineer should position themselves so that they're ready for what careers might be like in say 10 years or so?
Yeah, I think it's hard to know what your passion is sometimes. I think when pursuing an engineering degree, I think the possibilities are rather endless, especially if you look into your career guide. There's a lot of different opportunities out there, and I think it's sometimes a little tricky to understand what your specific passion might be without actually having some work experience. So I think the advice I'd probably get is to try and keep an open mind with these kind of things. For a long time, I had always imagined that I would work in a large multinational company, probably in management consulting or some kind of product development group, with the security of my job. But I ended up taking the startup route, which was something that I wanted to have a go at. But I think the idea there was that a lot of these decisions that I had to make were, things change quickly all the time. But sometimes making the right decisions also comes from having a strong network as well. And I think having a strong network is it's consistent across whatever kind of stage of your career you're at. And even at the current stage, I think it's something that even I could probably improve on a bit more, is that finding the right mentors in your own network, having someone that you can speak with and to learn from, I think is very important, especially early in your career, even as a student or as a fresh graduate, even someone a few years in like me, or even someone later on as well. And that's something that doesn't change. So that's probably something I could suggest, is try and keep your options open, explore different areas, and try and build your network at the same time.
I might add to that, Xing. Completely agree with everything you've said, but to Thomas, not to doubt your ability to impact the success of the company that you end up in as well. Don't think that you have to pick a winning company that you'll then be a part of, but don't doubt your ability to actually influence its success in the future. Even as a graduate moving in, you've got a great education behind you from the University of Melbourne, and the ability to impact the culture, the direction, how innovative a company is. That also comes down to you as well. So don't doubt, your abilities and your ability to impact big multinational companies in the role that you end up in.
Great, thanks, Edward. I might move on to another question from the audience, and this one is from somebody who actually created a startup himself a long time ago called Minifab, Earl Harvey. It says, startups are challenging, especially with limited resources. What do you enjoy about this, if you do? And what advice for others considering the startup route rather than working in sort of typical jobs or mega corporations, he says.
Yeah, I could have a go at that. I might pass it over. I've had a bit of experience working with large companies with over 1,000 people in one Melbourne office, for example. I think a main difference between the two that I personally really enjoy is the ability to make big decisions quickly that could have a large impact. When I was working for a large company, it's sometimes hard to make those big decisions until you kind of earn your place in the corporation. But in a startup company, a lot of the decisions that are made, I love making these big decisions for the company as long as it's in line with what we're all working towards with my other co-founders. And that's something that I can really learn quickly from as well. It's a big reason why I took the startup route too. And it's one of the best ways to learn and to make a big impact. Yeah. But yeah, I'd like to hear what the other panelists have to say as well.
Yeah, I can add to that. I think, yes, at a startup level, you often start with very limited resources, but that can often be exciting as well. And it's a challenge that I feel like every engineer can really thrive in. I still remember our first prototype where we were using Play-Doh to represent a blockage because it was cheap and it was something we could get our hands on very readily. And so it's just, again, being adaptable to what you do have available. But I also think it's using your network. And I know Xing touched on this a little bit before, but the university has a lot of resources that you can tap into. And there's also, accelerator programs and other sorts of programs that can help you access the information you need, but also the resources. So things like MAP at the University of Melbourne, or TRAM, otherwise the MedTech Actuator, which I know a number of us have been a part of. They can help you fill in those knowledge gaps and really get you moving. So I think whilst it's a challenge, I think it can be really fun. And I really enjoyed that part of the startup where we had no money and we had to find workaround solutions just to prove our technology at that early stage. And I think looking for the positives in it is really important.
Yeah, building on that, Elise, I'm sure from memory, I think our first prototype was made from components from Bunnings. So I completely understand that phase of the business, and it's also a great achievement to be able to look back at that and see how far you've come. So,
yeah, I will touch a little bit about why we should choose startup instead of big organizations. I think if we need to consider to start a startup, we need to first, is your business idea is feasible or not? Is how commercialization potential or not. That's one side. And another side would be like which stage you are in your personal life. Does you have support from your family? Does you have the skill that you already had to help you to pursue this endeavor? Because to start a startup at early stage, we don't have any income, so it could be a very hard time. Yeah, that's the things pop up in my head right now.
Okay, thanks, Dee. Well, thanks everybody for that. Good. So we've got just over about 10 minutes to go. So remember for those watching through the interactive event platform, you can submit questions using the chat on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll endeavor to answer as many questions as we can from those. So I think that one of the key things that sort of differentiates the biodesign program from a lot of other programs at university is the needs focus about that. So how important is it to start off with addressing the right need, do you think, in terms of being able to make something that's successful in the end?
For me personally, I think it's super important, because if you start with a need, you know you have a market for your product, and you're not trying to have technology and then find a market to sell it in, which is, I think, where people can go wrong. And so knowing early on who your customer is and what their requirements are is only going to help you create better technology that's really making sure you're addressing their needs. I think that's why there are so many successful startups and spin-outs coming out of the biodesign program, is because they really do have that market focus from day one.
Yep.
Yeah,
anybody want to
absolutely agree. Yeah, absolutely agree with Elise, because for us, we pivot several times after we graduated from university, because because we want to find a need that's really have a great market potential, as Elise mentioned, and to fit that customers' needs. We don't want to miss like all the important like we could say criteria for that need. The reason that we pivot is so because maybe we have a small market, or because our solution cannot fit the customer's needs, and that's why we pivot. So yeah, I think, as Celia mentioned, I agree with that.
Yeah, there's something quite beautiful about that theory as well. I mean, the first time I learned about it was in biodesign, but I think if we were to come up with a solution straight away, then we would probably just have one idea. But the beautiful thing about starting with the need is that you can come up with dozens of different needs, but one need might spawn dozens of different solutions. So as you work your way down the list of needs, you start to have dozens and dozens and dozens of different solutions. And I think that's just a really fascinating way to approach engineering, is that if we get stuck on one particular kind of solution, well, it's not like we're abandoning the solution immediately. It's, okay, well, you go back to the need and go to your next solution for that same need. Or if the need is no longer valid, go to the next need and come up with a new set of solutions. So I think it was just such a fascinating way of seeing how innovation should be done. And that was something I learned very early from biodesign. And it's extremely intuitive, but until it was taught, it was just, yeah, a light bulb moment kind of went off. And that was a really amazing moment.
Yeah. So Edward, maybe I'll direct one of the questions from the audience to you, which sort of builds on this, which is from Aidan, asks, did any of your startups have to deal with IP issues, and how did you tackle them? So this is more moving into the concepts.
Yeah, that's right. So IP, particularly for an early stage startup, is a really important aspect for a number of reasons. One, you want to be able to protect your own ideas and make sure that you can commercialize them in the future. And so often we are very in-house with our ideas, even though we want to share them with the world. And the other difficult aspect of it is it's as an early stage startup, you often don't have the resources to be able to defend or prosecute if anyone was infringing. So IP is a really important thing. How have we dealt with that? We've gone to experts and those who've gone before us and tried to pick their brains on the best way of how to word different aspects of your technology, and really just understand what's core to you, what's core to your business, and keeping that in-house and going through the formal ways to protect it. So if it's through patenting, trademarking, and all the other ways, if it's ever going to be your secret sauce, to make sure that it's protected really well, and then just getting advice from those who've gone before you, trying to pick up the mistakes they made and learn from them as well. So it is a really important issue, one that you shouldn't ignore. And for Aidan, I encouraged him to either reach out to me or one of the people on the panel or someone who's done this before, and see what they say about protecting IP. We're more than happy to help.
Yeah. So Elise, perhaps I'll direct Lachlan's question to you, which is, how would you say that the Endeavour program at the University of Melbourne influenced or assisted the early part of your career?
I think it definitely influenced quite significantly my career, because without the Endeavour by Design kind of program together, I wouldn't have a startup. And therefore, as a result, I would probably be working in a corporate job somewhere entirely different. Who knows what that path would have been? It's hard to kind of look back and know if that didn't happen, where would I be now? It's hard to say, but I think the Endeavour program was the first opportunity that we had also to present our ideas in a public forum and receive feedback, which I think was really crucial for us. And it gave us the courage to then take it forward. And without kind of having that experience, it's really hard to tell as well if we would have had the courage to then go and pitch to a larger audience, and kind of take it outside of the university. I think when we were finishing up at the University of Melbourne, we'd obviously presented to our classmates and kind of kept it really in-house. The Endeavour exhibition allowed us to kind of take a tiny step out and see what the world really thought about our ideas. And so I think that's been basically fundamental for our success moving forward. And, I also look back at Endeavour when I presented, and I was a nervous wreck. And I think now I've grown so much, and I wish I could go back and probably do that presentation again. And who knows, I might, get better marks. But it's all about that learning experience as well. And the more exposure you have to these sort of events, where you present your ideas and you talk through your design and your research, I think no matter what career path you take, the better you will be, because you will always having to have some role of talking about what you're doing and being comfortable and confident in that. Yeah. So we look back at our time in Endeavour and are really grateful to have had that experience.
Yeah. Well, perhaps what I'll do now, since we've only got about 5 minutes to go, is I'd like to ask a question I'd like each of you to answer. And so perhaps we'll start with Dee and ask, what are some of the useful skills that you've taken away from your studies, and how did they set you up for your career and journey after university? And are there perhaps any skills that you wished you had learned earlier as well?
Yeah, sure. I think self-confidence is one of the most important, because I'm an international student, and my study was 3 years. For the first half of my study, I was just not confident about myself. I was very quiet during the classes. I just submit my assignments and pass. But I didn't really have network, didn't really talk to other students, and I was doubt about myself all the time. So what changed me really a lot is that after I think the first 3 semesters, I started to realize, no, I cannot really just keep going like this. I have to build my skills as a person, as a student. There are so many resources, so many stuff going on every day in the university. So I started attend all different workshops organized by university, how to start build my LinkedIn profile, to start go to different club events, and I just go to different networking events as well. I start talk to people, and my English was really bad at the beginning. Even it's not good right now, but it's much better than before. At least I'm brave enough to show that who I am and what's the idea in my head, and I want to share my passion as a person, as a student, and we apply for biodesign innovation, which is a huge change for my whole life. If not because biodesign innovation, I think today will be quite different today. Another skill I think we need to learn.
Perhaps we'll move on. Dee, perhaps
Yeah.
we're running out of time, unfortunately. I'd love to hear more, but we need to give a minute or so to each of the others. But thank you very much for that. Ed, how about you?
Yeah, so we've already spoken about one, the focus on the problem or the need first, and really understanding it is an amazing skill to have, and being able to look at it from different angles and then go and find or create the solutions accordingly. So I've already mentioned that one. And then one of the other key learnings, on top of all the necessary sort of engineering skills rather, that I think the University of Melbourne has given me is the power of collaboration. So it's sort of related to that first point. Having people from different backgrounds approach a problem allows you to see things from an array of different perspectives. And it almost always means that you come up with a better solution. So that's one of the useful skills that, on top of the engineering ones, I think Uni Melbourne was given. And one that I think I wish I knew earlier was the power of networking. So I'll leave you with that.
Yep. Thanks, Edward. Elise, how about you?
I think the biggest thing I learned through my time at the university was really that process of problem solving and knowing either how to conduct the research to answer your problem or where to go and find someone that can help you answer the problem. And I think it's super important to know how to face problems and to have a process set up that now whenever a problem arises in the company, I know exactly, what to do, who I can go and ask, build that network to help you with that, or what process I can go to find the answer. And I think that's a really important skill to take forward.
Yep. Thank you. And Xing, how about you?
Yeah, one of the big ones was communication, which is always an important one for scientists and engineers like us. I learned how to pitch through biodesign and through a few of the master classes through the Wade Institute, and just being able to deliver a 30-second pitch to explain what you're working on to anyone is really important for decision makers. And you can always practice your pitch with anyone. Could be your friends, family, your Uber driver, and up until when you have to pitch that investor or decision-making community is really important. So yeah, communication's always been an important one.
Well, thanks all of you. Yeah, really thank you, Xing, Dee, Elise, and Edward, and everyone who's joined us for this Endeavour panel discussion today. So that ends this session now. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, David.